a Pakistani Brummie in the land of fjords. Now you might be thinking, Mr. Khan, what are you doing talking about Norway? It's all snow and very expensive fish, isn't it? Well, let me tell you, there's more to Norway than meets the eye. Just like there's more to me than being a community leader. Norway is a beautiful country, full of tall mountains, deep blue fjords, and people who are very, very punctual. It is a place known for its peace and quiet. On the other hand, you have Urdu. Oh, what a language! It is the language of poets, of romance, of delicious family arguments over who makes the best biryani. It is full of life, color, and a little bit of drama. So how did this loud, beautiful language find a home in quiet, calm Norway? It's a fantastic story, better than any Bollywood film. Think about it. One is the language of Ghalib and Faiz, a language that can make you cry with a single couplet. The other is a country where people enjoy skiing in complete silence. It seems like an odd pair, like putting pineapple on a pizza, which some people, for some reason actually do, but sometimes, the most unlikely combinations create the most wonderful things. The story of Urdu in Norway is exactly that. It's about bringing the warmth of our culture to the cold north. It is a tale of hard-working people who packed their bags, not just with clothes and spices, but with their language and their heritage, and traveled thousands of miles to build a new life for their families. This journey is not just about moving from one place to another. It is about creating a community, a little Pakistan if you will, right in the heart of Scandinavia. It is about our people, the pioneers, who faced the biting cold and the strange new customs with a brave face and a warm heart. They missed the hustle and bustle of Lahore's Anarkali Bazaar, but they learned to appreciate the quiet beauty of an Oslo park. They swapped their shalwar kameez for thick winter coats, but they never ever swapped their mother tongue. They knew that keeping Urdu alive was as important as keeping their feet warm in the snow. So get yourself a cup of chai, or maybe one of those fancy Norwegian coffees, and settle in. I am going to tell you how we, the Urdu-speaking people, made our mark on the land of the Vikings. It is a story of struggle, yes, but also a story of great success, of building bridges between two very different worlds. It is the story of how the sweet sound of Urdu poetry began to echo through the valleys of Norway, proving that a good story and a good language can find a home absolutely anywhere. And who better to tell it than me, a man of the people. Twadi Meherbani. It all started back in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Things were a bit tricky back home in Pakistan. Not enough jobs for all the brilliant, hard-working people like us. Meanwhile, Norway needed people. Their economy was booming, like a really good party, but they didn't have enough people to do all the work. They needed strong men to work in factories, drive buses, and build their country. So they put out a call, an invitation. And who answered? We did. The first wave of Pakistani men, mostly from Punjab, where Urdu is widely understood, packed their small suitcases and their big dreams and headed for the cold north. They came as guest workers, which is a fancy way of saying they came to do the jobs that needed doing. Life was not easy, let me tell you. It was very, very cold. Imagine coming from the sunshine of Gujarat or Lahore to a place where the sun says goodbye for half the year. The food was different. Lots of potatoes and fish, not a spicy Sikh kebab in sight. And the language? Norwegian sounded very strange to their ears. But our people are resilient. They worked hard, sending money back home to their families, and they slowly started to build a life for themselves, one day at a time. After a few years, something wonderful happened. In 1975, the Norwegian government allowed for family reunification. This was a game changer. It meant the men could bring their wives and children over to live with them. Suddenly, Norway wasn't just a place to work, it was becoming a home. The arrival of women and children changed everything. The lonely bachelor apartments were transformed into proper homes, filled with the smell of fresh roti, the sound of children playing, and, most importantly, the beautiful sound of the Urdu language being spoken every day. The community started to feel like a real community. This was the real beginning of the Urdu story in Norway. It was no longer just a language spoken by a few men after a long day at the factory. It was now the language of the home, the language mothers used to sing lullabies to their babies, the language children used to ask for more care. It was the language of family life, of gossip over chai, of planning weddings and celebrating Eid. The foundation was laid. The first generation had brought the seeds of our language and culture, and now, with their families beside them, those seeds were ready to be planted in the Norwegian snow. Once the families arrived, our people knew they had to get organized. It wasn't enough to just speak Urdu at home. They wanted their children to learn it properly, to read the beautiful script and understand the poetry. So, what did they do? They started their own little schools. Often these were just classes held in someone's living room on a Sunday afternoon, or in a rented room at a community center. The teachers were often parents themselves, dedicated volunteers who wanted to pass on their heritage. They used books brought all the way from Pakistan to teach the alphabet, the grammar, and the stories that we all grew up with. But it wasn't just about schools. A community needs more than that. It needs a heart, a place to gather. So they established cultural centers and mosques. These places became the hub of everything. They were places for prayer, of course, but also for weddings, for Eid celebrations, and for just meeting up for a chat. And with people came the need for proper Pakistani things. Soon, small shops started opening up, selling everything from shan masalas and halal meat to the latest Bollywood movies on VHS tapes. You could finally buy a good mango in Oslo. These shops were more than just businesses. They were social spots where you could catch up on all the news while buying your onions. Then came the media. Clever people in the community realized we needed our own voice, a way to share news and stories in our own language. The first Urdu newspapers and magazines started to appear. They were simple at first, maybe just a few photocopied pages, but they were so important. They printed news from Pakistan, community announcements, articles about life in Norway, and even poetry written by local writers. Later on, radio shows started broadcasting in Urdu for an hour or two each week. Hearing your own language on the radio in a foreign country was a big deal. It made you feel seen and respected. It made you feel like you truly belonged. All these things, the schools, the shops, the newspapers, the cultural events, were like threads weaving a strong fabric. They created a network of support that helped everyone feel connected to their roots while navigating their new lives in Norway. It meant that a child born in Oslo could grow up speaking fluent Norwegian at school with their friends, but also come home and speak fluent Urdu with their grandparents. They could enjoy the best of both worlds. This was how our community didn't just survive in Norway, it began to thrive, creating a unique and vibrant Pakistani-Norwegian identity with Urdu at its very core. Now, you might think, after all these years, with new generations born in Norway who are as Norwegian as a Viking, that Urdu might fade away. But you would be wrong. The Norwegian government has actually been quite supportive. They believe in multiculturalism. For many years, they even funded mother tongue education in schools, meaning children could learn Urdu as a subject during the school day. This was a fantastic help. It showed that the government respected our language and saw it as an asset, not a problem. Of course, there have been debates and challenges, but overall, the official support has helped keep the language strong. For the younger generations, Urdu is more than just a language they speak with their elders. It has become a key part of their identity. It connects them to a rich heritage, to the poetry of Allama Iqbal, to the hilarious dramas on Pakistani television, and to the massive world of Bollywood music and film. Speaking Urdu gives them a special connection to their grandparents and relatives back in Pakistan. It is a bridge that spans continents and generations. When they visit Pakistan, they are not strangers. They are family, able to share stories and jokes in the language of their ancestors. This connection is priceless. Furthermore, Urdu has become a cool language in some ways. It's the language of fantastic music that young people listen to, from classic ghazals to modern Coke studio hits. It's the language of amazing food blogs and YouTube channels. Artists, writers, and musicians of Pakistani heritage in Norway are using Urdu in their work, mixing it with Norwegian and English to create something new and exciting. This helps the language to stay alive and relevant for young people. It's not just the language of their parents, it's part of their own modern, hybrid culture. It allows them to express a part of themselves that Norwegian alone cannot capture. So, why does Urdu still matter in Norway today? Because it is a language of the heart. It is the language of family, history, and identity. It is a thread that ties the community together and connects them to a global diaspora of millions. It reminds them where they came from, and it enriches their lives in their Norwegian home. In the quiet land of fjords, the passionate, poetic sound of Urdu continues to be spoken, sung, and celebrated. It proves that you can build a new home without losing the treasures of your old one. And that, my friends, is something a community leader like me can be very, very proud of. Ooh, lovely.